You can't win them all, and honestly, it's interesting that the Pittsburgh Penguins find themselves in this hole. Penguins versus Flyers. Here we go, folks. The Pens and the Flyers. Game 6 of the Battle of PA and the Stanley Cup playoffs. Welcome to Penguins postseason postgame on Sports for beginners and on the ice and behind the benches. Let's get started. Welcome to Sports for Beginners. This is the show where I cover the Pittsburgh Penguins, Toronto Blue Jays, and take you on a journey through the world of sports from the fans' perspective. Here is your host, Scott McGregor. Let's have some fun. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Penguins postseason post-game, our final edition of the postseason post-game show for the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Pittsburgh Penguins fall 4-2 in the season series for the playoffs of the Battle of PA. The Keystone State Rivalry Series is done, and that means, folks, it's time to get ready for 2026 when it comes down to that season, which, as we already know, in case you don't know yet, will feature 84 games. It will feature 84 games. But we'll talk about that later in the show. For those who are not caught up to speed on the action, the Pittsburgh Penguins entered this series in Game 4 and Game 5 down 3-0. In Game 5, the Penguins got a little life as they were down 3-1. They ended up winning Game 5, forcing Game 6, but their luck ran out in Game 6. On April 29th, 2026, the final scores as we speak with you. Pittsburgh winning Games 4 and 5. 5 in Pittsburgh by the score of 3-2 on April 27th. On April 25th, they beat the Flyers in Philadelphia at Xfinity Mobile Arena 4-2. They lost Game 1 in Pittsburgh 3-2 on April 18th. Lost in shutout fashion on April 20th 3-0 to Philadelphia, also in Pittsburgh. They also lost the opening game at Xfinity Mobile Arena in Game 3, 5-2 on April 22nd, but picked up the win on April 25th, 4-2, and then they picked up their only home win of the series, beating Philadelphia 3-2 on April 27th. Philadelphia with the only shutout of the series, winning 1-0 in overtime in Game 6. Also winning 3-0 back in Game 2 of the series. Head coaching matchup as we jump from the series in a nutshell to our goaltending and our coaching matchup. It is first-year head coach for the Pittsburgh Penguins in Dan Muse versus Rick Tocchet. The season series for 2025 went in favor of Philadelphia or Pittsburgh. It went in favor of a tie, as both teams in all 4 meetings in the regular season won a game twice. So each team won a game on the road and at home in a 2-2 season series. But in the playoff series, Philadelphia coming out with a win 4-2 in the series. They will now get ready for the Carolina Hurricanes in round 2 of the Stanley Cup playoffs, and they'll be led by goaltender who got the start in every game in this series as we jump to our goaltending matchup, Number 80, Dan Vladaar. Dan Vladaar got the start for Philadelphia in every game from Game 1 to Game 6. Samuel Harrison was the backup for Philadelphia. He could start one of those games against Carolina, but we shall see. As for the Pittsburgh Penguins, they countered for the third game in a row with Arturs Silovs, the rookie, who won the previous two games, Game 4 and Game 5, which he started, and saved the Penguins' season as a result. Stuart Skinner in at backup. Skinner lost 3 of the games that the Penguins played in the playoffs before Dan Muse made the move to go to Arturs Silovs, who saved the Penguins' season twice, but couldn't do it a third time. If he was able to do so, the Penguins would become the 10th team in NHL history to go into a playoff series down 3-0 and force a Game 7, tying the series at 3 games apiece, but unfortunately not the case in Philadelphia in Game 6. All right, folks, before we go to our first commercial break of the program, our officiators for this game, the referees, including the standby referee, they were Gord D, wearing the number 19, and number 25, Pierre Lambert, along with number 6, Francis Charon, wearing the number 6 as the standby referee. Standby linesman was Tommy Hughes, wearing number 65. The other linesmen were number 67, Travis G, and number 83, and again, those were the linesmen, or as we call them in the women's game, linesperson, and our referees for the game. Game time was supposed to be as scheduled, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, got moved to 7:40 p.m. Eastern, and the drop of the puck, 1 minute after 7:40 p.m. Eastern. Game time ended 7 minutes after 10:40 p.m. Eastern, but we'll talk about those times another time. We are going to take a commercial break. When we come back, the penalty summary all throughout regulation, as there were no goals scored up until overtime. So we will go over our penalties from the first period to the second period that were scored in the score sheet. And following our overtime goal scorer, we will get to our shots on goal in between periods, the remaining game totals, and of course, we will touch on our 3 stars of the game. And want to remind everybody as we go to break that coming up after we sign off for the program, it will be our final Bucks and Pucks, or Bucko update rather, of the 2025-2026 NHL campaign for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And of course, just before that, as we sign off, we'll give you a look at what's to come for Weekly in Sports and what's to come for Sports for Beginners, this podcast in general. Spoiler alert, baseball season will be in full swing at this time, and it is in full swing, but we will be getting right down to baseball content for Sports for Beginners. Is there a potential bonus show for Weekly in Sports coming? Stay tuned to the end of the show before the Bucko update to find out what's in store. With that, Penguins postseason postgame Game 6 breakdown of the Penguins and the Flyers is coming up next.
CNT Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down, nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on CNT Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on CNT Radio.
Hey, Allie, did you know we have a books panel?
I did not know that. When is it?
It takes place on the last Friday of each month at 7:30 p.m. Eastern,
where we have fun and engaging conversations
about a book that one of the panelists picks.
So, how can I learn more about the show?
To learn more, please visit bookspanel.ca. While you're there, subscribe to the newsletter so you never miss an update. Besides, it's free. Enter your email and hit subscribe.
The Books Panel is part of the Musa Slobodia Network, where good conversations happen.
To learn more about the network, please visit themusaslobodianetwork.ca. While you're over there, hit subscribe so you never miss a network update. Enter your email and hit subscribe.
Take another look with Gerda Felix and Melanie Taddeo Malo, two powerful women of diverse backgrounds having genuine, unique, and uncomfortable conversations that everyone needs to have. Join Melanie and Gerda for conversations about what is missing from human connections.
All right, folks, welcome back to Penguins postseason postgame, our postgame show for Penguins postgame in the postseason. That's what we are calling it here on Sports for Beginners and on the ice and behind the benches. I'm your lovely host, Scott McGregor. I forgot to mention this in the opening. That's okay. I'm pretty sure by now, if you look on the Sports for Beginners side, you will see that I am indeed the host. I want to remind fans as well that for all of these audio recordings on Sports for Beginners, you will be able to get a link to highlights from Game 6, Game 1, Game 2, Game 3, Game 4, and Game 5. And of course, Game 6, as I mentioned, all those highlights will be there. But enough about that. Let's break this hockey game down, shall we? Because there is a lot that we got to get to. Let's break this hockey game down, shall we? I think we shall. And I have my trusty phone here just to help us out with the updates and the game notes just in case we mess it up. But we shall see. All right, folks. Well, penalties played a key factor in this game as there were no goals scored in regulation. Well, that's a first. But hey, and Vladaar versus Arturs Silovs, I got to give credit where credit is due to a lot of the broadcasters and people who cover the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Philadelphia Flyers, but it definitely looked like a goaltending matchup to the death between Silovs and Dan Vladaar, and definitely looked like the Broad Street Bullies and the Black and Gold going at it in a Battle of Pennsylvania. Despite the outcome, Penguins fans, which we don't like, which was 1-0 in favor of the Philadelphia Flyers, and as a result, they move on to play Carolina in round 2 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. We would have liked the Penguins to win that game, but they didn't get the job done, and therefore the season is over. But I don't want to dwell on that right now. We'll dwell on that a little later, because there's a lot to like from this game. Maybe not a lot to like as far as scoring is concerned, but a lot to like on both sides of the ice when it comes to the goaltending. Our penalties in the period. First, for the Philadelphia Flyers, they took a penalty 11 minutes and 53 seconds into period 1 of the game in Game 6. That would go to Jamie Drysdale, 2 minutes for interference, the time of the penalty called. The Flyers' next penalty, which would be in the second period, went to Luke Glendening, 2 minutes for slashing at 5 minutes 34 seconds. On the Penguins side, their second period penalty came right at the end of the period at 20 minutes as Christopher Letang gets nabbed for roughing, a 2-minute minor for Christopher Letang. At the midway mark of the first period, going back to the first period when the penalty, by Jamie Drysdale was called at 11 minutes 53 seconds. Just about 3 minutes and 41 seconds later, it was Noel Achari giving Philadelphia their first crack of the evening at the power play. 2 minutes for holding the call on Noel Achari at 14 minutes 41 seconds, time of that penalty. So no score through 60 minutes, no score after one period of play. Penguins out shooting Philadelphia 11-12 after one period of play. After 2 periods of play, Penguins out shooting Philadelphia outshot Pittsburgh 10-7 after the second 20 minutes of play. Philadelphia fell off the rails a little bit in period number 3, and they outshot the Flyers 13-5 after 3 periods of play. In overtime, the Penguins stay on the gas pedal as they outshoot Philadelphia 10-6 in overtime. But it was one of those 6 shots on goal by Philadelphia that ended up deciding who goes on to the second round and ending one team's season, which could have been decided on Saturday night in Pittsburgh. But the goal came on the side that would decide who Carolina plays in round 2, and that side was the Philadelphia Flyers. First of the postseason for Cam York. Only goal of the game. It's the game winner, and it's Cam York who puts this series to bed with a goal assisted by Matevei Michkov, who picks up his first assist of the playoffs, and Noah Cates picking up his third assist of the playoffs. Time of the goal, 17 minutes, 32 seconds. With 2 minutes and 28 seconds remaining in overtime, the Penguins get the win. Get the loss. The Flyers get the win, and they will face off against Carolina in round 2 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Against Carolina to the second round of the playoffs in the only overtime game of this series. And with that, folks, in the end, it was a goaltending battle to the death between Dan Vladaar and Arturs Silovs, and what a battle it was. Other stats from this game, well, here we go. The Penguins, as we mentioned in shots on goal, outshot Philadelphia 42-32 for the game. They won 31 of the 60 faceoffs in Game 6 for a faceoff percentage of just about 52%, finishing with 51.7%. Faceoffs for Philadelphia, they won 29 out of 60 faceoffs, winning 48.3% of their faceoffs. Once again, the PK for Philadelphia and for Pittsburgh. Go to work. Philadelphia 2 for 2 on the PK. Pittsburgh 2 for 2 on the PK. Pittsburgh on the power play 0 for 2. Philadelphia on the power play. 4 minutes each spent in the penalty box by Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. Philadelphia with the upper hand by quite a bundle of hits as they beat Pittsburgh 45-26 in the hits category. They blocked 10 of Pittsburgh's 42 shots. Pittsburgh blocked 15 of Philadelphia's 32 shots. Pittsburgh with 5 takeaways, 18 giveaways. Philadelphia with 22 giveaways in the game and 6 takeaways. And it was one of those 6 shots in overtime, particularly the shot from Cam York, that sends Philadelphia to the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. When we return, folks, as we're going to take a quick commercial break, we will get to our 3 stars of the game. From there, go to a Stanley Cup playoff roundup as we continue to look at round 1 action from the Stanley Cup playoffs. Get a look at who's still awaiting their round 2 opponent. The Eastern Conference has their first round 2 opponent decided. Carolina will face Philadelphia. Boston or Buffalo, who will be awaiting either Montreal or Tampa Bay in that series. We shall see. Winner of Boston Buffalo faces winner of Montreal Tampa Bay. The winner of Stars versus Wild will take on the Colorado Avalanche in round 2. And in Vegas and Utah, Vegas is 1 game away, as are the Anaheim Ducks, 1 game away from meeting in the second round of the playoffs. If the Ducks beat the Oilers tonight, they will await the winner of Mammoth Golden Knights. If the Oilers win, they will await their fate after Game 7 against Anaheim. If the Mammoth can get a win in Game 6, we go back to Utah for Game 7, where the winner will face Connor McDavid and the Oilers, or Cutter Gauthier and the Anaheim Ducks. We shall see, and we'll get you up to speed on all of that action, along with our 3 stars of the game, when we continue.
Hey Allie, did you know we have a books panel?
I did not know that. When is it?
It takes place on the last Friday of each month at 7:30 p.m. Eastern,
Where we have fun and engaging conversations.
about a book that one of the panelists picks.
So, how can I learn more about the show?
To learn more, please visit bookspanel.ca. While you're there, subscribe to the newsletter so you never miss an update. Besides, it's free. Enter your email and hit subscribe.
The Books Pen is part of the Musa Slobodia Network, where good conversations happen.
To learn more about the network, please visit themusaslobodiannetwork.ca. While you're over there, hit subscribe so you never miss a network update. Enter your email and hit subscribe.
Hi, Scott. It's Ali here. I just wanted to mention that I'm really enjoying the show and I'm really enjoying what you're putting together. And I wanted to just say I'm enjoying being a part of it as well. So please keep up the phenomenal work and make sure you guys keep this podcast going because it really suits you well.
Cianity Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down, nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on Cianity Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on Cianity Radio.
Have you ever wondered about the books we've been reading throughout the week?
Are you looking for friendly banter and technology tips at the same time?
Then you've come to the right place.
Check out The Ali and McCara Show. It airs live on Sunday afternoons at 3:30 p.m. Eastern.
Until spring. In the spring, we'll switch back to Mondays.
To learn more about the show, please visit thealiandmccarashow.ca.
While you're there, subscribe to the newsletter so you never miss an update. And besides, it's free.
Enter your email address and hit subscribe.
The Ali and McCara Show is part of the Musa Slobodian Network, where good conversations happen.
To learn more about the network, please visit themusaslobodiannetwork.ca.
Enter your email and hit subscribe so you never miss network updates.
All right, welcome back, folks, to Penguins postseason postgame, our final playoff edition of Penguins postgame on our Penguins postseason postgame show. That is the postseason edition of Penguins postgame on Sports for Beginners and on the ice and behind the benches. Updates from Weekly in Sports and, of course, Sports for Beginners coming up shortly. But before we can get to that, we gotta put a bow on the series and we gotta put a bow on the season. Let's get right back to Game 6, where the Philadelphia Flyers beat the Pittsburgh Penguins 1-0. Second shutout victory of the playoffs for Dan Vladaar. Shutout playoff victory for the Philadelphia Flyers as they beat the Pittsburgh Penguins 4-2 and avoid Game 7 against Pittsburgh in the Battle of PA, which would take place from PPG Paints Arena on Saturday this week if the Penguins were able to get the win. Unfortunately, not the case. Here we go to kick it off with our 3 stars of the game as we have eventually approached our midway mark of the program. We actually have approached the midway mark of the program because coming up in the next 2 segments, we will begin to start wrapping things up here on our program. Here are your 3 stars of the game, brought to you by Philadelphia and Pittsburgh Radio Network and TV Network, respective sponsors. Here on our program, we don't have a sponsor for that. But if we did, it would probably be one of those respective sponsors that are on the Penguins Radio Network or TV Network, or even the Philadelphia Flyers Radio or TV Network. We shall see. But here we go with your 3rd star, which went to Penguins goaltender Arturs Silovs. Finishes the game with a save percentage of 969, a goals against average of .77. He made a couple of pretty good stops, but did not stop the last shot of the game that would end this game in overtime. That goes to Flyers goaltender Dan Vladaar, who stopped all 42 shots by the Pittsburgh Penguins, ending his game with a goals against average of 0 and a save percentage of 1,000. To add on to Arturs Silovs' number there, Arturs Silovs made 31 saves on 32 shots, allowed the game winner in overtime at even strength. He played 77 minutes and 32 seconds. And Vladaar also played that number of minutes, but as I mentioned before, stopped all of the Penguins' 42 shots, did not let a single one trickle through. If he had done that, we would be talking about a much different game and maybe a much different scenario. We shall see. Anyways, it's Dan Vladaar, Cam York, and Arturs Silovs, your 3 stars of Game 6, in which the Philadelphia Flyers will head out to Raleigh to take on Carolina in round 2 of the Stanley Cup playoffs, defeating the Pittsburgh Penguins 4-2 in the Battle of PA first round series. And as for the Pittsburgh Penguins, their season is over. It's in the books. Now it's off to 2026-2027, which will be an 84-game scheduled season that I'm sure we'll find out more about over the course of the summer. Once again, the final score, Flyers 1, Penguins 0. Flyers win it 1-0 to take the series 4-2 in 6 games in this series. And of course, for the Eastern time zone, the end time was 10:47 p.m. Start time 9:41. I should say 7:41 p.m. was our start time. And with that said, we'll get to our play of the game before we go to our commercial break. And after that break, we will go to our shake of the game. But before we do that, time now for a look at the Stanley Cup playoffs in a nutshell for 2026. One second round series has been determined in the Eastern Conference. That will feature the Philadelphia Flyers, who beat the Penguins in 6 games in the Battle of PA in the first round. They will take on the team that made quick work of the Ottawa Senators in 4 games in the Metropolitan Division champion Carolina Hurricanes. So it will be the Carolina Hurricanes versus the Philadelphia Flyers in round 2. Over on the other side of the Eastern Conference, Montreal Canadiens are 1 win away from sending Tampa Bay packing and awaiting the winner, Boston versus Buffalo. Boston saved their season the night before. The Penguins and Flyers would do battle in Game 6. They beat Buffalo 2-1 in overtime to save their season and force Game 6, which will play out tomorrow night. The winner of that game will either play Tampa Bay or Montreal, but Tampa Bay has an opportunity on Friday to force Game 7 back in Tampa Bay. And if they can do so, they will play in a do-or-die situation for both Tampa Bay and Montreal to determine who plays the Boston Bruins or the Buffalo Sabres. If the Sabres win on Friday, they will patiently await Montreal or Tampa Bay, depending on the result of Friday night's game in Montreal. But if the Sabres and the Canadiens win their game on Friday, it will be the Buffalo Sabres versus the Montreal Canadiens in round 2 of the Stanley Cup playoffs in the East. Over in the West, meanwhile, the Colorado Avalanche are patiently awaiting the winner of Stars Minnesota. And if Minnesota gets the win tonight on home ice, they will take on Nathan MacKinnon and the Colorado Avalanche in round 2 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Vegas Golden Knights, 1 win away from knocking out the Utah Mammoth in Utah's first taste of Stanley Cup playoff action. And if they get a win on Friday night in the nightcap of May 1st, 2026 action in the Stanley Cup playoffs, they will await the winner of the Ducks and the Oilers. Tonight, however, if the Ducks can get the win and then Vegas gets the win for Friday night, it will be in the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Vegas Golden Knights versus the Anaheim Ducks, with the winner playing Colorado or whoever they face in the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs between Minnesota and Dallas, with the winner of that series moving on to play Colorado. So there you have it. The winner of Wild and Stars takes on Colorado. The winner of Montreal Tampa Bay takes on the winner of Buffalo Boston. And the winners of Mammoth Golden Knights takes on the winner of Oilers Ducks, with the winners of those series in the second round facing each other in the Western and Eastern Conference Final, whoever the second round opponents may be. All right, folks, Bucko update coming up after our sign-off, but coming up next on our program, final thoughts of this series in general. What can the Penguins build on in 2025, 2026, 2027, when that season gets going? What to expect on Sports for Beginners and Weekly in Sports. And of course, right off the jump of the break, our final shake of the game of the season. And just before we get to that, it's time for the final play of the game of the season. And I got a pretty good idea of where my play of the game is going to go. And in fact, there's no argument when it comes to giving credit to the man who was given that opportunity on the Penguins radio network, as I think we can all agree, especially if we're Penguins or Flyers fans. Find out what my play of the game is when we return.
Hey Allie, did you know we have a books panel?
I did not know that. When is it?
It takes place on the last Friday of each month at 7:30 p.m. Eastern,
Where we have fun and engaging conversations.
about a book that one of the panelists picks.
So, how can I learn more about the show?
To learn more, please visit bookspanel.ca. While you're there, subscribe to the newsletter so you never miss an update. Besides, it's free. Enter your email and hit subscribe.
The Books Panel is part of the Musa Slobodian Network, where good conversations happen.
To learn more about the network, please visit themusaslobodiannetwork.ca. While you're over there, Hit subscribe so you never miss a network update. Enter your email and hit subscribe.
Take another look with Gerda Felix and Melanie Taddeo Malo, two powerful women of diverse backgrounds having genuine, unique, and uncomfortable conversations that everyone needs to have. Join Melanie and Gerda for conversations about what is missing from human connections.
Have you ever wanted a talk show that discusses news, politics, the show's favorite sports teams, as well as sports media and broadcasting? Check out The Ali Musa Show, where we discuss these topics in a single package. To learn more about the show, please visit thealimusashow.ca. While you're over there, subscribe to the newsletter so you never miss an update. Besides, it's free. Enter your email address and hit subscribe.
The Ali Musa Show is part of the Musa Slobodian Network, where good conversations happen. To learn more about the network, please visit themusaslobodiannetwork.ca. While you're there, subscribe so you never miss a network update. Enter your email and hit subscribe.
It is just about time for our play of the game. And of course, due to us not sharing any audio or not running any audio to respect the NHL and everything else in between, we will provide you with highlights of the game. But as I mentioned before the break, and I'll give credit to the arm dog, Colby Armstrong, for this. I got to agree with him. The play of the game that would be good enough for my play of the game, again, like the 3 stars of the game, brought to you by on the Philadelphia Flyers and Pittsburgh Penguins radio and TV network, their respective sponsors. Play of the game good enough for me is your overtime winner to send Philadelphia to the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs, and of course, end the season for the Pittsburgh Penguins. They will take on, and I'm saying for Philadelphia, just to be clear, they will take on the Carolina Hurricanes in round 2 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Once again, my name is Scott McGregor, host of Penguins Postgame for the regular season, also host of Penguins Postseason Postgame, the postgame edition for the playoffs of Penguins Postgame, here on the Ice and Behind the Benches, and of course on Sports for Beginners. Updates from Sports for Beginners and Weekly in Sports are soon to follow. But now with the play of the game off the jump, out of the way, the play of the game is out of the way, but the shake of the game is on its way in a few seconds. We want to get to a little bit of some final thoughts. And final thoughts from this game so far and this series. Really well played by Philadelphia. I felt like they controlled the series right from the get-go. Got a little off of the gas pedal in Game 4, really started to find their game back in Game 6, and of course in Game 5, despite losing that one in Pittsburgh. I honestly feel like this came down to who had the better goaltender, but that would be a bit of an understatement because both teams had really good goaltending. I mean, this pretty much came down to this whole series, in my opinion, and we're entitled to our own opinions. So if you have your own opinion, you could let me know what your opinion on the series is. But in my opinion, this happened to be a series which would come down to which team had the gut punch to do whatever it had to do in order to face Carolina, or potentially if Ottawa could have gotten right back in the series against Carolina in that second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Now, that was the first round series for Carolina, which they made quick work of the Ottawa Senators, but Philadelphia not going to be able to make quick work of Pittsburgh that easily, as Dan Muse made the turn to Arturs Silovs, and he stepped up in the moment in Game 4. He seized the moment in Game as well, and in Game 6 he even seized that moment as well, but unfortunately, Penguins not able to score a goal. Flyers were able to score, and that's how the season ends for Pittsburgh in overtime disappointment. But you know what? Call it a failed season. Call it whatever you want, Penguins fans. I'm not going to call it a failed season. I thought this was a really big season by the Pittsburgh Penguins and a really big surprise for both teams. Now, will the Flyers win the Stanley Cup this year? I don't know, and neither do you, Flyer fans. All we can do is stay positive and see what happens against Carolina. But 1 series down, 3 series to go. I say that because the second round is on deck. Then the Eastern Conference Final would be on deck if you can get by Carolina. We'll see how that goes. Shake of the Game recipient for the Pittsburgh Penguins in Game 6. That's going to go to Arturs Silovs with a honorable mention to the big 3, Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, and Christopher Letang. Another honorable mention for Pittsburgh going to Tommy Novak, as well as Igor Chinikov. And for the victorious Philadelphia Flyers, who win the season series in the playoff series, that is 4-2. Just like I did with Pittsburgh, it's going to go to their goaltender. I would love to give it to Cam York, but I'm going to go ahead and give it to Dan Vladaar. Dan Vladaar and Arturs Silovs, the Shake of the Games recipients for Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. And with that, folks, we will be back in 30 seconds to close this out after a quick word from our good friends over at the Musa Slobodian Network with what you can expect on Weekly in Sports and Sports for Beginners now that hockey season for the Penguins is over. And of course, we'll round that out by setting you up for Flyers and Hurricanes. And just before we go to the break, the final scores of the day: Montreal beating Tampa Bay 3 games. I should say not 3 games. In their game on Wednesday, Pittsburgh, as we know, lost 3-0. Lost 1-0, not 3-0. The Mammoth lose in double overtime, 5-4. Those 2 series, Vegas and Montreal series, 1 game away from Vegas and Montreal advancing in their series, patiently awaiting the winners of the other series going on in the first round. But as for Pittsburgh Penguins hockey, that is it, and we will wrap it all up for you in 30. What to expect on Weekly in Sports. What to expect on Sports for Beginners. Setting up Canes Flyers right after this from the Musa Slobodian Network. Stay with us, because also after that and after our sign-off, it's time for our Bucko Update with our good friend Thomas McGregor, host of On the Ice and Behind the Benches, with the latest surrounding the Pittsburgh Pirates. Back to wrap it up for Penguins hockey, 30 seconds.
Hey Allie, did you know we have a books panel?
I did not know that. When is it?
It takes place on the last Friday of each month at 7:30 p.m. Eastern,
Where we have fun and engaging conversations.
about a book that one of the panelists picks.
So, how can I learn more about the show?
To learn more, please visit bookspanel.ca. While you're there, subscribe to the newsletter so you never miss an update. Besides, it's free. Enter your email and hit subscribe.
The Books Panel is part of the Musa Slobodian Network, where good conversations happen.
To learn more about the network, please visit themusaslobodiannetwork.ca. While you're over there, hit subscribe so you never miss a network update. Enter your email and hit subscribe.
Be sure to catch up on everything with the Musa Slobodian Network, from Book Panel to the Ali and Makara show to the Ali Musa show and everything in between, by visiting their website, themusaslobodiannetwork.ca. We will have a link in the description of a future episode of Sports for Beginners and Weekly in Sports, so that you are going to be able to be in on all the action and what's going on speaking of what's going on, just before we get into Weekly in Sports and Sports for Beginners, this is a perfect segue down there. The inaugural season of the WNBA first ever basketball program for women's basketball in professional women's basketball in the WNBA, I'm talking Toronto Tempo, has begun. They lost their opening preseason matchup. They will have one more matchup before they get going on May 8th, Friday, May 8th. But they lost the opening matchup in quite a pretty interesting game. In fact, over the course of our recordings, I've been watching the highlights and game recap from WNBA.com. They lost that game 83 to the Connecticut Sun. They will take on the Minnesota Lynx Friday night. Tip-off at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Daylight Eastern Time, in their final tune-up before they take on the Washington Mystics in the first game of their inaugural season. And as a great segue to that, the WNBA is underway in the preseason. Fever and the Wings will tip off at 7 p.m. tomorrow. The Lynx and the Tempo get it going. When the Tempo played their first preseason game, the Chicago Sky lost to the Atlanta Dream 87-78. The Portland Fire beat the Seattle Storm 81. I should say they lost to the Seattle Storm, not won. They lost to the Seattle Storm 91-81. And the Phoenix Mercury picked up a dub as they beat the Japan international team 86-60. Not bad. So that is preseason action for the WNBA, which will continue until May 3rd, 2026, when the Los Angeles Sparks and the Portland Fire battle at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The Las Vegas Aces and the Dallas Wings take the court at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on that day. At 3 p.m., we have the Washington Mystics and the Atlanta Dream. And at 5 p.m., the New York Liberty take on the Connecticut Sun. Saturday, it's the Indiana Fever against the Nigeria national team, I should say. Tip-off on Saturday, May 2nd at 8 p.m. Eastern. Actually, let me make sure. That is actually at 7 p.m. Eastern, excuse me. But tip-off for Tempo and Lynx at 8 p.m. Eastern. And with that said, coming up on Weekly in Sports, no end of the month, April program this year for season 2 of the show. But we will have a May program for you later in this month of May as we approach the summer months in 2026 with lots to talk about, including a WNBA update and starting in May exclusively on Weekly in Sports. Basketball fans, look out for WNBA content surrounding the Toronto Tempo. Not really a post-game show, but we'll be talking Tempo on certain days when we are not doing our end-of-the-month programming, starting in May, running down every game the Tempo have played from preseason to regular season, with a couple of game recap programs coming up. These will be bonus episodes, and select episodes of these programs will be part of Season 5 of Sports for Beginners. Speaking of that, on the next season episode of Sports for Beginners Season 5, we will be talking NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. We'll be talking baseball for a majority of the program, looking at where teams stand heading into the month of May, and of course, what's going on with the Toronto Blue Jays. All of that coming up on the next episode of Sports for Beginners Season 5. Basketball content is also going to be coming up on that episode and in the next episode as well. So we got Stanley Cup playoffs, WNBA content coming, perhaps some NBA content in the NBA playoffs, and baseball content galore coming up then. As for when we will talk to you, Penguins fans, for more Penguins hockey talk, stay tuned to our website, or rather our Facebook page, for updates on when we can get Hunter on the show, or when I will be doing some solo shows to break down the 2025-2026 Penguins season in a nutshell, as well as getting ready for 2026-2027, where the Penguins will begin an 84-game season with hopes of potentially making it back to the playoffs and maybe, just maybe, winning the Stanley Cup that year. Will we have the big three, Gino, Crosby, and Letang, back? That's a question we could talk about over the course of the offseason, which begins now, and it's a big question. But for now, folks, as far as the Philadelphia Flyers are concerned, they are done with the Pittsburgh Penguins. They are heading to the second round against the Carolina Hurricanes, and we are heading from game recap action to off-season content, while meanwhile checking in on the Stanley Cup playoffs from time to time. Folks, it's been a whirlwind of a season for the Pittsburgh Penguins, a team that was written off just like the Philadelphia Flyers were written off. And look at where the Flyers are right now, in the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs, ready to take on the Carolina Hurricanes in a matchup that will decide the winner taking on whoever wins those series between Montreal, Tampa Bay, Buffalo, and Boston, and whoever those two opponents wind up being in that second round. It could be Buffalo versus Montreal, it could be Tampa Bay versus Buffalo, Montreal versus Boston, or Tampa Bay versus Boston. Either way, Philadelphia and Carolina will play winner of whoever advances in those first round series to play in the second round, and then of course the Western Conference as well. To honor the great Mike Lang one more time, before I wrap it up here, I'll give you a prediction. And I talked about this with the host of On the Ice and Behind the Benches. I feel like this series between Carolina and Philadelphia is going to go 7 games. So give me the black and orange in 7 games against Carolina. I feel like Carolina comes up short against Philadelphia, but I don't think it happens in 4 games, and I don't think it happens in 6 games. I think it's going to go Flyers in 7. We shall see what happens. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But regardless, we will keep an eye on that on a seasonal note for Sports for Beginners, the podcast. Baseball content, basketball content, off-season Penguins content coming your way, and football content set to make its return heading into the summer as we get closer to All-Star break time in the Major League Baseball season. But let's not go too far ahead. Now we are going to wrap things up here, and I want to wrap it up before we honor Mike Lang to sign off by saying thank you guys so much for joining me and joining Thomas and joining everything that we do on our podcast, Sports for Beginners, On the Ice and Behind the Benches, weekly in sports, Penguins post-game, and all the post-game shows we do, both on Sports for Beginners and On the Ice and Behind the Benches, etc. We really do appreciate you joining us. Even if our timing is a little off, we understand that. We're trying our very best to get things under control. So we appreciate your viewership, your listenership. We appreciate it all. We appreciate everything that you do. Penguins fans, as I said before, it's been a whirlwind of a season. I'm very happy with how this season ended, even though it ended in disappointment. Yes, I don't like the outcome of the game. I would have preferred Pens in 7, but it didn't happen. And the Penguins didn't get the job done on Wednesday night. So therefore, today is exit interviews and the start of the offseason. You gotta give the team credit. They fought hard in this season. Even when they were written off as they're gonna go into a slump, they're gonna miss the postseason, they made the Stanley Cup playoffs, and nobody predicted that they were going to make the playoffs. Not even the Philadelphia Flyers. They didn't predict the Flyers were going to make the playoffs, and look what happened. We got Penguins and Flyers in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So good luck to Flyer fans in the second round of the playoffs. Good luck to all other teams still fighting in the playoffs. Ladies and gentlemen, Elvis has just left the building. That is going to do it for Penguins game day hockey night on Sports for Beginners and on the ice and behind the benches. Thank you so much for being with us. We really, really appreciate it. Appreciate your listening. Appreciate everything that you do to help us get this podcast into as many ears as possible, even when timing may be off. We're working on that. And we truly mean that. And now to honor Mike Lang, but with my spin on his iconic line that I just used to sign us off for good. Ladies and gentlemen, Justin Brazeau has just left the building. Thank you so much, Penguins fans, for joining us for another season of Penguins hockey. We will see you next season, but for now, enjoy the off season. And if you love baseball, basketball, or whatever, and let's say you're a Penguins Canadian hockey fan, we got a lot of Canadian sports still going on, even with the Stanley Cup playoffs in the rearview mirror. And we'll have it all for you as much as we can on Sports for Beginners Season 5 and Weekly in Sports Season 2. My name is Scott McGregor. We cheer loud and proud, Penguins fans, for the black and gold, saying, let's go Pen. I will see you all in 2026, 2027 for a new season of Pittsburgh Penguins hockey after the off season. Let's go Pens. Talk to you then, Penguins fans. Thank you so much for listening to Sports for Beginners. If you would like to learn more about the show, you can visit the podcast Facebook page or visit the official website. You can also send us an email at sportsforbeginnerspodcast8231@gmail.com. As we always remind you, it is not goodbye, it is until next time.